How many times have you heard that you need to make money passively, or you need to make money without working in your business, or you need to wake up to new sales? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you how to actually build a business so you can go and relax in Fiji while your agency grows on autopilot without you meddling around or having to micromanage people. As always, let me go ahead and share my screen. If you want to access this document, super easy. Go to facebook.com/Alec J. Roy. Check out the pinned post, and it will show you exactly how to get it for free. If you already have the drive, then just check the free drive you already have, and you will see it. Now, after coaching 132 automation and marketing agencies in the past 14 months, I have found that building a highly structured business system is the best thing that you can do if you want to make life-changing money. Now, using this exact framework, I was able to build a $20K per month agency within 7 months while working less than 2 hours a day. Now, to be clear, this is not a lot of money to a lot of people, and to others, it's life-changing. That's perfectly okay. Now, the reason that I highlight this specific personal win of hitting 20K within 7 months, it's not because it was my best month ever, but it was because it was the month that made me realize I could do this. This was actually legit. And I was able to do it in less than 2 hours a day. So if you're thinking to yourself, well, I could work 4 hours a day or 6 hours a day, great. You should be able to achieve these results much faster than I did. Now, to be clear, I did this while working a full-time job and helping my wife with our newborn at the time. So unless you're a single parent working 2 jobs with no support system, bad news. You have no excuse, absolutely zero excuse. 99.99% of you just lack discipline, and you have an abundance of excuses because, frankly, you probably don't want it as badly as you think you do. And none of this would have been possible for myself if I didn't have a system in place that did the majority of the work for me. Now, I've included here a screenshot for the proof or the moment where I realized that I was onto something. 7 months in, 92.1% profit margins. As what you'll see is as you grow, your margins will get really, really close to not 100. It'll never be 100, but it'll get really, really high. And then as your cash flow increases, your margins will drop a little bit, and you'll see why. But this was the month where I realized, whoa, this is legit. I could actually do this full time, right? What you're going to learn is also a very similar model to the one that I used to add an additional $400,000 in top line revenue to an industrial cleaning agency within 9 months, which they then leveraged to secure an additional 11 smaller accounts through an acquisition. And I have no idea how much money that was. It wasn't part of the 400K, but I have no idea how much those 11 additional ones were. Now, it's the very same model that I teach my one-on-one clients, which means you'll be able to learn without paying me a penny. And I have a few testimonials here if you want to pause to read. But if you check out my Instagram at Alec J. Roy, there's a testimonials highlights. You can click through all the testimonials. If I had them all here, I mean, there'd be, 50, 60 pages of testimonials. So if you run any kind of digital agency where you're handling most of the work because you think that you can do it faster, better, smarter, whatever excuse you want to give yourself or give me, then you need to recognize that there's a better way to do it. If there wasn't a better way to do it, then you'd be the richest person in the world, which you're not, and there's a better way to do it. So sit down, pay attention, and take notes. Now, for the novice business owner, if you're a newbie, if you're brand new to this, I'm going to give you a heads up right now. This stuff is going to bore you to death because you probably still rely on content that talks about how much money you can make and the fancy cars and the high-rise condo and all the attractive people that you'll attract because with the money, right? Whatever shallow purpose that you have to start your business. But if you are more of an intermediate or if you're more of an advanced agency owner, then you will see this for what it truly is, a blueprint to fully exit your business while still scaling it. This is what most people want, few people have. This is the stuff that you understand will make life-changing money while working less hours than a part-time job. I think I work between 1 to 3 hours a day. It's amazing. I love it. Now, if you think that you can create the dream lifestyle by doing everything yourself, I'm going to let Gordon Ramsay himself tell you what you are. What are you? You're an idiot sandwich. Doing that means you're going to get stuck working long days with no breaks, no vacations. And if you do take one, then you're going to lose income. And don't even think about taking sick days, right? You're working and working and working and working, and yet you're not moving forward. And here's the worst part. Are you ready? At the exact same time, these younger people, these stupider people, these less talented people, these less skilled people, such as myself, are making much, much more money than you. And I'm working less than you because I have teams and systems in place. And yet here you are working 60 to 80 hours a week, if not more, going nowhere fast. Why? Because I, along with these other business owners, already know what I'm about to share with you. Now, if your business is still relatively new, then give yourself a little bit of a break because in the beginning, you do have to handle wearing every hat and doing a lot of the work yourself. I understand that. That's beyond normal. So don't think, well, I need to be there. No, that's very normal starting out, right? You're learning and you have little to no budget to work with. But as you grow, You have to let go. You have to leave the nest. And yes, it's scary. Guess what? I don't care. You know why I don't care? Because I've seen the impact that this will have on your life, because I've seen the impact it had on my life and my family's life. So in this guide, I want to share with you how to hire the right team for your agency. Many agency owners, like those running high-level agencies, SMMAs, SEOs, lead gen agencies, right, face challenges with hiring. Now, unlike the vague advice that you often find online, the information I'm going to share with you in this guide will offer a clear step-by-step approach. By the end of this training, you will know exactly who to hire for your digital agency and when to hire them, all the way from the essential roles like fulfillment to the key executive roles like your C-suite. You'll learn how to handle tasks like traffic generation, customer success, and important but often overlooked roles. And at the end of the training, I'll even show you how to create job listings that attract high quality candidates. What's the goal? What's the reason behind all of this mass information? What does it all boil down to? To build a business that doesn't need you to succeed. That is the dream. That is how you make passive income. You don't make passive income by doing something and leaving. You don't make passive income by signing up for someone's course and sitting through it. You make passive income by building a system that makes money without you. So to start, we want to focus on first the most important roles that are consuming the most amount of your time. Then you want to focus on roles that directly benefit your cash flow. And finally, you want to wrap up with bringing in management that will keep the business operating smoothly. So go ahead, let's remove all distractions. And my advice is go ahead and put me in like 1.5x speed. If you think I talk a little too slowly, even 2x speed. Otherwise, just go ahead and take notes and leave me at normal speed. So what are we going to cover? We're going to cover initial fulfillment traffic generation, CSM, sales team, management, content creators, C-suite, essential yet non-cash producing roles like accounting, insurance, building SOPs, automations, hiring, and software to manage your team. Quite a bit of information. It's going to be a longer video. If you would rather scroll through TikTok and watch mind-numbing content, or maybe you want to go and rewatch Friends for the 50th time, that's perfectly fine. Go ahead and exit now. You're not wasting my time. I record the video, but go ahead and spend your time doing something that's not going to help you out, only to come back and realize months later you should have paid attention. For those of you that are ready, I'm going to show you just about every part of every topic. It's going to be a little bit of a longer training, but more value-packed than most of the other stuff that you're wasting your time on. Let's start. Number one, role one, however you want to look at it, initial fulfillment roles. Unless you want to commit fraud or you enjoy wasting your time on fulfillment, your first hire should be the people who actually do the work you're promising to clients. This is by far the most important yet most time-consuming task. I've had people tell me that they spend 4 hours trying to reconnect a domain. Why? Why are you doing that yourself? Charge a setup fee, take that money, pay somebody much smarter than you on Fiverr, on Upwork, and let them do it for you. If you do not delegate these tasks, your cash flow will take a direct hit because you're going to limit how much money you can make. You're going to be working longer days, and you're going to be working harder for less money. I don't want to do any one of those things. Maybe you do. Maybe we're different that way. But you're going to replace whatever boss you had at your last job with clients, multiple bosses. And now they're all pulling you in different directions, ripping you limb from limb like some kind of weird torture out of a history book, right? At the end of the day, you end up becoming a glorified freelancer, not a business owner. If you think I'm a business owner and yet you're in your business and your presence is dictating sales directly, you're not a business owner. You're a glorified freelancer. You're way, way too involved. Doesn't mean you can't be involved, but the business should not rely on you. So let's see what roles you need to consider when you are outsourcing fulfillment. You can replace this with any of the general tasks that you need for fulfillment. Here's what I see with the GHL agencies, the SMMAs, the SEOs, the LGAs. Number one, a high-level specialist or some kind of software-specific specialist that can help set up the onboarding, the CRM systems, making sure clients get started smoothly, making sure they get new sub-accounts, domains, automations, anything within your software specifically, in this case, GHL, right? Next would be your on-page SEO experts. If you're building them a localized websites, then you want to make sure that the website is truly localized. So these are people who will optimize the websites so they show up better in search results. They tweak things on your website so Google likes it more and shows it a little bit higher, right? Your next one is going to be your Google My Business or your Google Business Profile Optimization Specialists. These are people who will help your business show up in local results. They're going to basically ensure that your profile listing is optimized, which again will help get you more clients. So again, this is usually what I have in my initial setup for a low-level offer. You can see more on that on the 10-step $0 client acquisition course, where I talk about in the third document or the third training the recommended offer that I have, and this is usually in the initial setup at a bare minimum. But you start by delegating these tasks on a project-by-project basis. And the reason for that is because it's like dating before you get married. You want to see if they're a good fit, them being the actual fulfillment team, without a big commitment. As you get more clients, you can switch to monthly services. So these specialists are always ready to work. They're always on standby, especially if you find ones that you really like. This helps control costs, kind of like not buying a gym membership until you know you'll actually go. This will help you make sure that before you make a commitment, you can test it out, whether it's a person, a software, whatever, right? Now, while it's nice if these individuals, these freelancers have their own tools, you should aim to eventually get them into your software system so you can keep an eye on things. But initially, focus on your cash flow. So you don't need to buy software. You don't need to buy fancy gadgets until you know you can afford them or until it makes sense. I remember the first time somebody told me they spent like $500 on software for one software. I was like, whoa, that's so expensive. You don't need to buy it. You can pay people who already have access to software and they can use it for you, okay? Before you buy it yourself. And I have a training where I cover exactly how to use VAs for client fulfillment. So if you get this document, all you have to do is click here. You can see another training about 25 pages long with a YouTube video linked at the top. Let's move on. Expanding traffic generation efforts. This is going to be very similar to role 1, which is the initial fulfillment roles. Depending on your offer, you may need to hire people to generate traffic for your clients, right? If you're saying you're going to generate traffic for them, you probably have to do that. Again, otherwise you're committing fraud, right? So once your basic team is set in place, you want to bring in people to drive more traffic to your clients' websites. And again, this depends on the scope of the project. So if you're doing lead generation, make sure you're paying lead generation guys to do lead generation. So it could be blogging and off-page SEO experts, which will create content and backlinks to make your websites more popular or more visited. It could also be PPC and paid ad specialists. So PPC, LSA, Facebook ads, social media ads, email marketing, whatever, right? So you can bring in these specialists. Essentially what you want to do is figure out how much work each person can handle. So if you bring on let's say a PPC specialist, figure out how many clients they can handle. And then you'll understand how many each can hire on a regular basis to ensure that they're not overwhelmed, right? And usually what I've seen is you'll pay like $250 to $350 a month per client. So again, another reason why you need to charge a little bit higher, and I cover that in the training that I talked about right here. Then you can technically hire these roles at the same time as the rest of fulfillment, depending on how fast you launch the offer. I've only segmented it because with the initial fulfillment guys, it's usually a one-time setup for a project. With these guys, you're having to pay them on a monthly basis since it's not a one-time service, right? Typically you're generating them traffic. You're setting up the campaigns, then you're generating them traffic on a monthly basis. Whereas these guys, you're usually doing a one-time setup, maybe a little monitoring, but usually it's a one-time setup, right? Now, moving on. Role 3 is the customer success manager, or the CSM / executive assistant. It can kind of play this dual role, and you'll see why. You need to remember that if you're dealing with clients that are paying you on a monthly basis, you want to really highlight the fact that it's called monthly recurring revenue. That recurring is the part that makes making money so much easier because they're paying you. You have to get one client and they stay with you for a while. So one client leads to you getting paid every month as opposed to one client, one payment, right? So with monthly recurring revenue, you kind of need them to pay you monthly for it to make sense. Otherwise, it's not recurring. Otherwise, what happens is you end up looking for new clients every single month, and that is a nightmare situation to be in. That is why after you have your fulfillment team in place, your next hire should be a CSM, a customer success manager. Now, this person's job is to keep your clients happy and ensure that they keep paying you, right? They're like the glue that holds everything together. They're like the family member that's keeping your conservative grandpa away from your blue-haired cousin, right? This is really the individual that evolves into the department that really keeps everything going really, really nicely. And so to really further illustrate that, let's look at this graphic that I created, right? You can see how I break my fingers for this artwork. So if you look at black as new clients and green as monthly recurring revenue, let's say I'm only getting 5 clients here. You see the green. So in the first month, you have no recurring clients because you're brand new. And if you only got 5 clients every month, your recurring revenue would go from 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 clients, right? So you are getting to the point where even at a steady addition of clients, your cash flow monthly is increasing very, very nicely. So because of this, the CSM needs to come in first. And because of this, and you can see how many more individuals the CSM is dealing with in the sales team, I put more emphasis on retention than I do acquisition. A lot of people think sales is fun and sales is the sexy part, is the part that really generates cash flow. The really, really cool part, if you've been in this business for longer than half a day, the really, really cool part is the customer success, because through the customer success, you will figure out what they like, and then you can create marketing assets around what the people like that will go get you more clients that the sales team can then take and weaponize that information. You'll figure out what they dislike. So when you adjust it and address it, then you can share that with other clients, and that will increase upsells, that will increase your client lifetime value, that will increase the stickiness, how long they stay with you, right? So CSM is going to lead to really the backbone of your cash flow. The sales team are just trying to add to that point. You might get to a point where if you have 60 to 100 clients, you really don't need more because your cash flow is really, really nice. You're netting, close to, if not very over $1 million a year. So you may get to a point where you're very happy. And that's where your sales team really doesn't need to be as present as you think they need to. You just need your CSS team, your CSM team, and your content team. So again, CSM actually should take priority. There's a lot of good literature on why CSMs are more important than sales teams, but if you have any questions, let me know. Now, CSM can also act as an executive assistant, helping to manage the day-to-day business stuff, because as they're keeping clients happy, then they are also understanding all of the things that it takes to keep those clients happy, right? But again, keeping clients happy means they'll stick around, giving you steady income to grow your agency. The CSM can double as an executive assistant because, again, most of what you'll need their direct help with will correlate with the customer journey, right? So the CSM will monitor signing contracts and onboarding and access sub-accounts and troubleshooting complaints, issues, and checking in periodically. And anything that's not an easy fix, they're going to take and they're going to hand that right off to the fulfillment team. So you can see how the two roles overlap. And personally, I would give the CSM permission to assign those tasks to the fulfillment team within a degree, right? So if they're deeming this as something easy, they should be able to go ahead and hand that off to the fulfillment team. Now, as you scale, you can separate or further define each role, but starting out, this helps tremendously. Additionally, the CSM or executive assistant is learning directly under you. They're essentially a mentee because you are directly impacting the customer journey. So you can have them promoted upwards as you scale, so they can basically scale up with you and move into higher and higher management roles, or even all the way up into C-suite roles, right? Think like Donna from Suits. Role 4, the sales team. These are the setters and the closers. So we've just covered in depth why the CSM is so important, why the customer success management department is so important. Now we're going to go into the sales team. So these are the people who could sell ice to a penguin, water to a fish, the closers, right? Now, while the fulfillment team and the customer success management team will provide your clients with what you told them you would give and keeps them around for a lot longer, they do cost money, which means your cash flow will take a small hit because you got to pay somebody and then they start doing the work and then you find the direct and indirect benefits, right? But with remote closers, you can hire them on a commission-only basis. This means that they will get paid when they make a sale. So when you first bring on closers and setters, it's not going to impact your cash flow up front because you can bring them on, and by hiring them, you're not paying them because they're on a commission only. So then when they go to get a sale, then on the back end, once payment comes in, they get a portion of that, right? And some people will do both setting the appointments and closing the appointments, which I recommend finding somebody that you like starting out. Now, to bring in new business, you'll need more leads and clients, and this is where those setters and closers come in. So just to really define those roles, setters are the people who warm up leads. They're kind of like the friendly chat before the sales pitch, right? Closers will turn the leads into paying clients. They're the ones who actually close the deal. So usually what you see is when you differentiate the roles, the setter will be the guy who's, you probably had this happen where the guy or the gal's in your DM saying like, oh, hop on a meeting, hop on a meeting, hop on a meeting. And the closer is who you actually speak to on the meeting, right? And to make it simple, to really clarify, I drew this picture. It took me a long time. I don't want to share how long because that might be embarrassing, but this is how it looks, right? Step 1, you, and this is the remote seller, the remote closer, make a deal. There's $0 up front. Step 2, the remote seller or closer goes and looks for clients. Step 3, they send you the client and the client is paying you money. Step 4, of the money that the client pays you, you would then pay the remote setter, remote closer, right? And again, I recommend paying per close starting out because appointments don't always equal closing. So sometimes setters, what they'll do, sometimes you got to be careful. Sometimes setters will just say like, oh, hop on the call, hop on the call, hop on the call. They'll really, really push for the prospect to hop on the call. And then the prospect hops on the call and it's just a really low quality prospect. They're confused why they're there. They end up leaving. So you don't want to pay for that. So that's why I recommend starting out, I would only pay per close. Now for payment, do whatever you want to do. What I usually recommend, just a very safe general, ballpark, however you want to look at it, just a very safe option is I recommend either 15 to 20% of the setup fee or 5 to 10% of the setup fee plus, let's say 10% monthly for 12 months or even 10% monthly for, perpetuity for lifetime, right? You can pick, but make sure that it makes sense for your business. Now, next, moving into role 5, management. Now, unless you want a mutiny on board, you need management in place. You've already brought in all these different roles, all these different players. You need management put in place. So as your team and your client list grows, you need someone who will keep things running smoothly without you being pulled into every direction. Because if your clients aren't going to be your new bosses, you definitely don't want your departments to be your new bosses. So hire a manager. You can either promote a great CSM or you can bring somebody new in. So CSM again being the customer success manager, or bring in somebody brand new. Managers keep the agency grounded and they will prevent it from going too fast out of control or growing too fast out of control and getting a little bit too big for its britches, right? Whatever analogy you want to use. Think of them as the gardeners who are keeping the weeds from taking over. So they are ensuring that everything is moving smoothly, right? To make sure that your team and your managers don't get overwhelmed, remember the scope of control. This is something that was really ingrained in me in the military. And I've seen that as I translated that from the military to the civilian side, it has worked really, really well. And it keeps a lot of people breathing easy in their job, even as pressure comes in, right? You want 3 to 5 people under everyone. So one person should not have an active management over more than 5 people. That's basically what it's saying, right? Now, some people can handle more only if the workload per additional person evens out. But you do not want to burn out good workers, because if you do that, you're going to lose them. So with scope of control, you manage 3 people. Those 3 people manage 3 people. So everything goes up, everything comes down. It's really easy to maintain positive control. Let's say this guy is sick or something. He can step in or she can step in. And then these 3 get dispersed amongst these other 2 groups, and you're still within the scope of control. One person manages 2 people who manage 4 or 5 people. So scope of control keeps everybody happy. When somebody's missing, it's really easy. Without scope of control, again, look at just the sheer details I put into this artwork. Beautiful. Without the scope of control, what happens? Everybody goes to this one person. They're unhappy. If they take a sick day out, if they take anything out, then there's nobody in control. Everything falls apart. This is the same logic for your managers as it is for you. Either you are managing everybody, and if you don't have systems put in place and you fall out or you're sick, the whole thing stops. Or you have a manager who, when they fall out, you have to step in and you have to step into this nightmare. So make sure you have a nice scope of control. It will make life so much easier. Do not be greedy. Do not think, I got to hold on my money. No, this is how you grow businesses. You reinvest into them, and that keeps your workers happy, which makes everybody a better unit. Now, rule 6, if you don't personally know, when it comes to content creation, it is a huge time eater. It requires a lot of attention. I personally will prefer content creators over remote closers, remote setters, because I've seen how much money content can bring you in. So again, another reason why it's nice having those setters and closers on commission only, because there's not a really big commitment. And another reason why I want content creators to come in, because it is a big commitment. You do want them after your management. So you want to hire content creators to produce articles, videos, any media material or media assets that will attract and retain clients. So you want them to come into your pipeline, and you want them to, when I say attract, they come in, they like the content, they stay, or they come in and they like the content, and then retaining is keeping them staying. So content that's keeping them engaging. Multiple touch points will eventually lead to a sale, or at least an increased audience, which will then lead to a sale. Now, you can even start out by hiring editors to edit for you if you don't want to just hand it over to them. So you can bring in people on project-based trials to see if they're a good fit, and they'll create their own content, they'll edit their own content. Or you can even, at the bare minimum, just start by saying, I'll create my content and then I'll send it over and I'll let somebody else edit it for me. So again, you don't have to go 0 to 100. You can do, smaller steps to make your life a little bit easier. Now, at this point, you have fulfillment, you have traffic, you have CSM, you have sales, you have content, you have management. So the final piece is going to be your C-suite roles, right? And this is internal. You'll see there's role 8 non-cash producing roles, but this is internally your C-suite, right? As you are hiring and managing all these roles, you should be creating SOPs, which I'll cover in just a moment. Once you have your SOPs smoothed out, you can consider removing you, from the actual business almost altogether. I would always recommend keeping a pulse on the business to keep it passive. That's how I'm able to work less than some days an hour a day. Some days I'll stay and I'll work, 2, 3, 4 hours a day. But this is going to be how you do that, right? So this is where the C-suite executives come into play. Usually what I bring in first is a COO and a CMO, because if you look at the previous roles that we've outlined, COO is going to be the operations of the agency. CMO is going to be the marketing strategies and client acquisition. So under CMO are going to fall your sales team, your content team, and your customer success team. Under COO, you're going to have your fulfillment guys. You may still have your a little bit of the customer success guys, and then your management guys. So basically making sure everything is working together. Now, later down the road, you might need a CEO, a chief executive officer, to be kind of head over those 2 individuals, and even a CFO, chief financial officer. But I usually start with these two while I'm still in that CEO role before removing myself or my client from that position, right? These people will take over running the agency so you can focus on big picture stuff like golfing or napping, right? I don't golf, but if that's for your kind of thing, go for it. I'll game or I'll just, hang out with the family, whatever, right? These individuals should be salaried, of course, with bonuses, focused on growth and strategy, right? And I'll show you how to bring in really high quality guys. Role 8, non-cash producing roles. These are the roles that will not directly make your business money, but they are crucial to playing business defense. I had a client, we made him a ton of money. I said, great, we got to put in a little defense. He said no. Guess whose business crumbled within the next 6 months, okay? These roles don't directly make money, but they are necessary for legal and quality of life reasons. Here are the things that I look at, and you can outsource all of these. I would recommend outsourcing all of these. I would not recommend bringing these in under you. There's so many firms and agencies that you can find, you can research. If you have questions, I have a great accounting firm. But if you have questions, look online, talk to people in the space with you and see who they recommend. Do your research. But I would outsource all of these. So you have number one, the accounting firm. So you want to hire these early, very early, to keep your finances in order. Think of them as the person who will stop you from spending all of your money on snacks. Think of them as the person who will tell you how much money you set aside from taxes. Think about all that information, right? They're super, super helpful. You can even use QuickBooks starting out to track your books, and they have bookkeeping services. But I have found that when you have an actual accounting firm, number one, it's not that much more expensive with your than using like a software or even a feature like QuickBooks who does your bookkeeping for you. It's not that much more expensive, and they can answer way more questions because they're not just bookkeepers. So hire an accounting firm that you're paying monthly. Then you've got your HR, your human resources. You can consult a business lawyer when you start hiring W-2 employees or consistent stateside contractors. This will ensure that you are following the rules for insurance and benefits. So if you hire people, I'm not an accountant, I'm not a lawyer. So don't, anything I'm telling you, it's not me telling you what to do. It's just me telling you what I've understood. Please talk with a professional. I am not that individual. But from what I've understood, there's a lot of legal obligations if you are hiring people, even on a project by project basis, if you are in the United States. So speak with somebody, they can walk you through those details, if you will. But you want to make sure that you have a referee that will help ensure you are playing by the rules, because the consequences for not doing that are not going to be cheap. They're not going to be fun. And then there's also the legal team, right? Make sure that you're performing periodic audits to ensure that you and your team are doing everything properly and by the book. Also, make sure that you're minimizing legal liabilities to third parties. Human resources is almost like your own internal legal team, but it's definitely not bad to consult with an actual legal team that can make sure that you're doing everything right and that nobody is taking advantage of you that's outside of your business as well, right? Next, building SOP. So before we can hire for some of these roles, and I cover this in the training for the VAs, but before we start hiring for some of these roles, we need the scope of the project, or we need an SOP. This is a standard operating procedure. The military is obsessed with SOPs. I am obsessed with SOPs. Everybody I've seen that is a high performer is obsessed with building internal SOPs. It's very simple, as you're about to see, and it is critical. Think of this as your business's Bible. Think of it as your business's cooking instructions, whatever guide to doing life that you abide by, think of it as that for your business. Now, if you are at all confused, an SOP is essentially a list or a set of step-by-step instructions on how to complete a specific task. Here's an example of an SOP from a high level themselves. And I can get you a bigger version here. Let me see if we can make this a little bigger. So you can see this is to set up a new phone number, right? It's telling you what we're going to do. And it says, here's how to do it. Go here, click this, select this, click this, enter this, check this, enter this, click, complete. Here's how to complete that. Boom, boom, boom. Here's the links, right? It is a full step-by-step process on how to do these things. So for the scope itself, for understanding how to build the scope itself, I have in this training, it's the same one I linked above, and it shows you how to create the scope itself for a project. But here's how to make your own SOP. Number one, complete the task yourself or have somebody who's already completing the task do the task. Number two, as they're doing the task or as you're doing the task, document the entire process. You can document the steps itself, or you can record it via a screen recording software like Loom, and Loom will actually create an SOP for you. It has like these cool AI enhancements. But if you don't have that with Loom, just take the transcript from Loom, from whatever screen recording software you have, and ask ChatGPT to create steps for you, right? Next, once you have the SOP, you want to house the SOP, or you want to place the SOP in a centralized location that you can share with your team. You can use Google Drive, you can use Notion, you can use a project management tool like ClickUp, and you want to house it there where everybody can have access for it, right? Then you take the Loom video. I always recommend doing a video walkthrough. If you don't have one and you have SOPs, just the next time you do it, record it, right? Take the URL of the screen recording and put it at the top of the directions. That is going to allow people who are more visual learners to follow through with you, and that will allow fewer questions for you. And finally, one of the most important parts of building an SOP is you need to be humble enough to enhance the SOP as more people use it and ask questions, and questions pop up. So here's what I mean. If you understand how that process works, congratulations. The SOP is not for you. You already know how to do it. Duh. The SOP is for people who don't know how to do it or who are trying to remember how to do it. So if they're saying, hey, I read this, I'm a little confused, you need to add clarifying language. You need to be more clear, more simple, more concise, more to the point. That's why the Loom video helps with the directions, but you need to be willing to enhance your instructions and your directions so that way anybody of any skill level can read it and accomplish it. These are how, or these approaches, these practices are how you truly remove yourself from the business. If you're so cocky to say, well, I understood it and Jill from, this department understood it, again, you're missing the point. Is the point for you to have your ego stroked over an SOP, or is the point to build SOPs that will remove you from the business, right? So that needs to be the main focus. And for the full view of the GHL SOP, you can go here and look at this Loom video at the top, all the instructions, all these different things, right? This is a very nice and clear SOP. And to do all of it is in this video right here. Now, let's keep going on. Let's talk automations. Now, what about tasks that we can automate using high-level, Zapier, Make, whatever platform, NAN, whatever, right? Easy. Automate them. It's so simple. Just automate the tasks, right? Why would you spend money unnecessarily on tasks that can be automated? Why would you spend time unnecessarily on tasks that can be automated? Now, that being said, you do not want to automate a bad process, especially if you're paying per automation. You do not want to automate a bad process because then you're just taking a crap sandwich, and instead of making that crap sandwich manually, you're just automating it. You're still getting the same output, crap sandwich. So you want to make sure that your process is really improved first. That's where the SOPs come in. That's why SOPs come before automations. So you want the automations to be deriving from or stemming from or proceeding from a process that works really, really well, right? You want your automations to help your business as efficiently as possible. Again, if you automate a crap process, then you didn't improve anything. You just automated a crap process. This is why I like working with people to document and perfect a process before I automate it, as I said above. Now, how do I do it? Here's how. Number one, map out all the tasks that you do by breaking them down into SOPs. We just talked about that. Ask your staff to do the same. So you're going to go to your staff and say, hey, every task you do, these are called like time audits, right? Every task you do, document it, map out how long it takes, but document everything you do and how you do it, right? Then you want to look over all the steps for steps that you can actually automate. So if you see things that are very redundant and they don't require a human touch, automate it. Then, number three, automate it, right? Like I just said. And you can have your VAs do it, or you can see if YouTube has any tutorials, but automation is really, really simple. Especially if you have an SOP and a flow of how things work, you can easily hand that off to a VA, whether it's one you hire, whether it's one internally, whether you want to do it yourself, and you can very easily have that set up, right? And then finally, make sure the automation helps the team. I like to add email, Slack, and or internal notifications as needed to ensure that tasks are allowed. So if you're automating something, notify people, hey, this task is just done. Now you're up, right? So you can notify people with internal notifications or third-party notifications via email and maybe even Slack, right? And again, as you build out your SOPs and automate tasks to free up your time, now you can start hiring out for more advanced roles. So when I was talking about bringing in your C-suite people, you need automations in place. You need these things in place before you can kind of bring them in. So now, okay, great, I'm ready to bring them in. How do I do that? Well, if you want your business to run like an overpriced Italian watch, you need to make sure that you hire A-list players, okay? The fastest way to do that, the fastest way, like don't even overthink it. So many people overthink this process. The fastest way to bring in high quality players is to put out a job listing with insane benefits and insane pay. That's it. That's it, right? If you think about all the times you were looking for a job listing, pay is important, benefits are important, work-life balance is important. So if you want A-list players, you need to put out a job listing that really attracts A-list players. Now for the VAs, the virtual assistants, the freelancers, the contractors, it's all in this training. But for higher up roles, you want to look at job listing sites for a similar job to find job descriptions that you like. Then once you find a job description you like, obviously copy it, use it for inspiration to create your own. Then you want to find the median income for the position and you want to pay above that. You want to pay 5, 10, even 15% above that. People don't want pizza parties. Bad news. And nobody cares more about your business than you do. So please, you have to stop expecting people to want to do work for a pizza party. You have to stop expecting people to care about your business as much as you care about your business. You have to stop doing that. If you want them to care, you have to give them what they actually want, because then they'll associate business performance with their own compensation, their own benefits, their own work-life balance, right? They want money, they want benefits, and they want a culture where they can thrive so they don't hate every second of work or spend their time at their job looking for a new job. I can't tell you how many times I've seen that, right? And at the end of the day, it truly is that simple. There's no, how do I find great people? Pay above market rates, be a cool place to work, be a nice person to work for. It doesn't mean that they walk all over you. It doesn't mean that you're, Gordon Ramsay ripping them a new one in the kitchen. It just means you need to have a decent, productive, healthy culture, good pay, good benefits. To do that, it needs to be better than your competition, or it needs to be at least better than the median rates, right? At the bare minimum, if you're not at median, don't come to me saying I can't find high quality people. That's just the long and short of it, right? It blows my mind when employers think that an air hockey table and some company merchandise is going to ever replace getting paid more money. If that is something you're looking for out of business, congratulations. I hope you find somebody who has cool logos they can send you. For me, I can take the money they pay me and I can use some of it to go get cool merch, and I can use the rest for, doing what money does. Ideally, you want someone who can do the job, which means you'll want someone who has done the job in the past, right? If they've done it in the past, usually that means they can do it in the future. It doesn't have to be that way, but it's typically ideal. But I found that most people lie a lot. They will lie on resumes. I don't know if you're watching this, maybe you've lied on a resume. That's okay, I'm not gonna tell anybody. So I basically want to pay above average rates with above average benefits that will attract quality candidates. At the bare minimum, it will attract not only the low quality, but also the high quality, and lots of numbers will come in, and then I can kind of filter them out in the interview process, and I can do my fact checking, right? But if you're paying below market or even at median rate, you might have a lot of people who are trying to make that jump into the sweet space, and to do that, they're maybe exaggerating or lying, right? Now, those that do well, they stay with your company. Those that don't do well, fire them. Just get rid of them, right? But again, make sure everything is done by the book. So you want to talk to HR, you want to talk to a business lawyer to make sure that you're not firing anybody in a way that's going to get you in hot water. But again, if they are not doing what they said they were going to do, or if they lied on the resume, or maybe they had a great resume and they are just a really crappy candidate, you got to get rid of them ASAP. Now, let's say you find somebody great. How do we effectively onboard and manage your new hires? This is the same if they're at the bottom, if they're at the top. I don't care. Onboarding is very, very simple, but very, very important. Most people, or many people, when they hire someone, they give them a simple SOP and then they expect perfect execution. They give them a really crappy scope and they expect perfect execution. They expect them to understand the culture and the way things work and how to read your mind. It's not going to happen, okay? It does not work like that. Even if the person is experienced, there are still specific details that need to be followed. There's still specific ways that they need to execute, right? So here's what you need before hiring someone. Number one, an efficient and simple onboarding process. Number two, training materials and resources, aka SOPs. And number three, shadowing and checkups. The new employee should know exactly what to expect, when things will happen, and how they will happen. This process should be efficient, simple, concise, clear, and to the point. So here's an example of what an onboarding process may look like. By all means, this needs to be applied and adjusted to whatever your process is, but this is typically what I do. You're going to want to spend a lot more time with your higher ups or with people who are less experienced, but this could be an example of one, right? I'm not going to have an onboarding example for every position, but this is an example one, right? So maybe for your C-suite guys, right? Day one, 2 to 3 hour onboarding call first thing in the morning on their first Monday. Ensure access to training resources and materials, SOPs. Double check direct deposit and payment schedule process. Cover all responsibilities and your key performance indicators. Basically, what metrics are you going to be watching as they go that will tell you this was a good or bad fit. Onboarding time frame, basically higher positions will require longer training periods. That's perfectly normal. Access to project management platform that you may use. Access to internal communication and platform, so access to everything. Introduce them to the company and to the team and vice versa. Review all of your expectations and your target metrics that will determine success. So kind of like KPIs, this would be responsibilities in the position and KPIs that will tell us or tell the company they're doing well. This may be personal expectations and personal target metrics as they get into a point where they can satisfy these. So it's not really fair to say, hey, come on board and we want you to hit this kind of a goal. It may say, hey, let's have realistic expectations of how we can get you to the point where you're satisfying these 100%. Day two, overview of daily, weekly, monthly, and any additional tasks on whatever period. So how often you're doing tasks, the frequency of tasks, the repetition of tasks, right? Review training materials and any HR onboarding docs required. Review of SOPs and task breakdown structures. Ensure new hires access to all logins and software and they've been using it and they've logged in and done what they need to do to set their accounts. Again, reviewing expectations, timeframes, KPIs, and responsibilities. So it's doubling down on this, really reinforcing the boundaries of what you're trying to accomplish. And then between day 3 and day 28, and again, this is going to change depending on the position. Like I said, this is a very general approach, but even this is probably better than what most people are doing. I know this is better than most of the jobs I had. This is better than what they had. Complete tasks together. So this is where you have your shadowing and your reverse shadowing. So shadowing is where they are watching you. Reverse shadowing is where you are watching them. So complete tasks together, step by step, using the SOPs. If you don't reinforce that you're using SOPs, if you don't reinforce the actions and behavior of the company from day one, they're not going to be operating or they're not going to want to operate within those boundaries. So reinforce that from day one using your SOPs. New employee completes tasks independently. So this is where you're going from shadowing to reverse shadowing. So as you start doing and they see it and they feel comfortable, let them get behind the steering wheel, right? Let them drive while you sit in the passenger seat, clutching your pearls and whatever that thing is at the top of the car. So let them complete tasks independently while being shadowed. Let the new hire shadow you, then you shadow them. That's reverse shadowing. Then you let them attempt with oversight that lessens over time. So maybe you're watching them every day. Maybe you're like, hey, I'll go in, I'll come back and check in on you in an hour. Maybe it's, hey, I'll check in on you tomorrow, right? So you want to basically wean your presence away, right? As you're going, provide feedback and corrections. Do it gently. Say what they're doing well. Say what they're not doing well and why and how to correct it. But you don't want to just push people down. You also don't want to avoid putting them down, or not putting them down, but you don't want to avoid giving positive, constructive criticism because you're worried it's going to hurt their feelings. You need to give them that constructive criticism in a way that will help them. Don't think about like, well, when I was a kid, my daddy would yell at me and I like that. No, you're in a work environment. You want to have a healthy culture. So you need to do it in a way that says we are productive, we are efficient, but we're still human. Okay. And of course, you want to show them how to track all their own data so they can basically compare their own performance against themselves as they improve and to compare versus the KPIs that you're trying to accomplish, right? Make sure that you cover everything during onboarding to avoid any confusion. As you have things appear, go back and improve your onboarding process. Or as you have questions that appear or confusion that appears, go back and improve your onboarding process to make sure that by X day, whether it's a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, whatever training period you have, but by the end of it, that they're fully ready to go, right? Give them access to necessary tools, explain who they will work with, introduce the company, provide training materials, go through tasks step by step using SOPs to make sure they understand, and adjust your SOPs as needed, right? We talked about this up above where if somebody's confused on the SOPs, you need to adjust it. It is for them. It is not for you. Put your ego to the side. I don't care. After they understand, let them perform tasks while you shadow them. Correct mistakes and guide them. Shadowing should continue for the first 4 to 14 days, depending on the role. Could be much longer. Afterwards, schedule weekly or monthly shadowing sessions and regular calls to ensure they're on track. I don't care how good they are. I'm very hands-on. If you are somebody who likes to micromanage, the way you do that is you hire well, you pay well, you really go hands-on, and then you do have to wean away so that way they can do it. But you can still come back and monitor as much as you want, right? When it comes to metrics, ask yourself, what role did I hire this person to do? And then what are smaller data points that tell me that they were the right hire? So what role did I hire this person to do? Let's say it's customer success management. What are the smaller data points that tell me they were the right hire? Maybe it's, client lifetime value, CLV. Maybe it's stickiness, how long are they staying? Maybe it's churn. Maybe it's upsells. Maybe it's reviews and testimonials, right? And then looking at those metrics, how can I improve those metrics by, 1%, 2%, 5%, 0.1%, 0.01%, right? But how can I improve them? So outside of those two questions, nothing else really matters, assuming that they're not a walking HR violation, right? Now remember, they are humans. Everybody you hire is going to be a human being. Nobody comes out of the womb knowing how to work a job or knowing how to work for you or knowing what you want, right? So you need to prioritize communication and quality checks to make sure that any mistakes are caught as soon as humanly possible and corrected before they become bad habits, and especially before they get handed off to the client or customer, right? You as the leader, you must know what your team is doing at all times. You cannot do that without project oversight, quality checks, and constant communication. You can't. When I come in and I check in on my businesses, I'm not working in the business by saying, okay, cool, let me go make a sale today. I'm checking in with all these data points, all this communication to make sure everything is moving cohesively, and then I'm answering any questions that they may have, right? Hiring well is essential for running a successful business. If you hire properly, you can delegate daily tasks and focus on higher leverage activities. You can improve client results, you can avoid burnout, and you can run the business with minimal intervention. That being said, as much as it's attractive or appealing to be removed from the business, you cannot be an absent parent. You can't. So, how do we actually manage the team? When you run a digital agency, the software you use decides how well your team can work. So if you have very little software or very limited software, it's only going to hurt you. You need to focus on what the end goal is, not about all the little details. If I got to save a penny here, save a penny there. Grow, then trim the fat. Here's the basic software stack I recommend starting out when it comes to managing your team. For project management, you want to keep track of who's doing what and when they're doing it, and when the project or a task is being handed off to the next individual. I use ClickUp because they have a massive free library of training, and you can start for free. So you can go to university right here. This is 100% free. Look at all this stuff. So much content for free. So that's one of the reasons I really enjoy ClickUp. For internal communications, to basically help your team talk to each other without needing messenger pigeons, I use Slack because it can integrate with everything. It has a really, really nice mobile app, and it can be used for notifications from email, Stripe, ClickUp, GHL, anything. So for example, if you get a failed payment or a successful payment, you can notify your team and yourself in a chat, Slack channel, that is. So for any automated tasks, use Slack channels for notifications. This makes project breakdowns much easier to navigate. So as a project is completed, or as a task within a project is completed, you can be notified right there, and you can have full oversight of everything: payments, project management, task submissions, new clients, clients leaving, clients coming in. So you can notify yourself of absolutely everything. So Slack is really nice because not only can you communicate with teams one-on-one or in channels, but you can also have channels dedicated just to notifications. And then you have your third-party automation. So to connect all your software together, I would recommend Zapier or Make. These are very standard tools. Many virtual assistants know, but you can also find cheaper, more niche software when it comes to automations. So you don't have to be limited here. But these are very standard ones that most people know when it comes to VAs. When it comes to bookkeeping and payroll, you can basically, to help manage money going in and out, make sure that everyone is getting paid. If your CPA does not have a recommended software, you can use QuickBooks, and you can add your CPA to QuickBooks. And QuickBooks can also offer bookkeeping, as I alluded to earlier, for very competitive rates if you need it, but they're not going to help with your filing. They're not going to be able to answer great tax questions. So bookkeeping, payroll, QuickBooks is great. And then for payroll, there's so many different apps you can use, but I would definitely recommend speaking with an accountant and seeing what they recommend. I'm not a big fan of recommending payroll software to anybody because when it comes to accounting, when it comes to legal, when it comes to HR, when it comes to insurance, don't listen to me, don't listen to anybody but professionals. And then you want to discuss benefits and insurance with insurance providers and business lawyers to make sure you're doing it all right. So again, I covered this a little bit earlier, but they will help you set it up so it's not a total mess. So putting it all together, this is what it looks like all together. Okay, I know we've been going on for a while. If you made it this far, at least I know, and at least you're very serious about really building this out. But here's what it looks like putting it all together. Red equals losing time, build SOPs and hire. So you can see when you don't have fulfillment automated, it's all of your time's going to it, right? So once you bring in fulfillment, there's a little dip. Now you have more time because it costs money to hire them. There's a dip. You have more time to bring on more clients. As your cash flow increases, you're starting to have to keep up with your clients. So as your clients are pulling you in different directions, you see you're losing time. You should be building your SOPs, and now you're ready to hire. As you bring in a CSM, there's a cash flow dip, but you can almost instantly bring in remote setting and closing because, again, commission-based, they don't charge any upfront. So that's why there's no dip here. Straight increase in cash flow if you're doing it the right way that I recommend. As you're having to manage your closers, your setters, your executive assistants, your CSM, and your fulfillment teams, you realize I need management. There's going to be a cash flow dip here, and it might increase a little bit because with good management, like you'll see, everybody knows what to do when they're doing it, and they can ensure that any bad people are being removed, any good people are being rewarded, which will lead to higher performance. As that cash flow comes in and as you're making more content, you see you're losing time, right? I've put the red everywhere. Losing time, build SOPs and hire. You can bring on content creators. Like I said, start with editors and then move into full-blown content teams, whether it's internal or external. That's going to be a cash flow dip, but it will lead to more evergreen content, which will help with your setting and closing, and it will help bring on, more and more clients. That's where now you have every role filled out. As you're getting more time because you're having to manage all this, you want to bring in some C-suite players, whether it's fully pulling yourself out of the business or at least moving yourself into strictly a leadership role. And then you go right here in the blue where, yes, it costs you money, but now you've brought on really smart individuals because you're paying above market rates. You're treating them like kings and queens. They're treating their teams like kings and queens. They're treating their people like kings and queens. It trickles down. You treat everybody well. You have a good culture that's focused on productivity. and treating people like humans, and you have fully removed yourself from the business. So if you want your cash flow to increase as time carries on or progresses, you want to follow this process, if not a very similar process, to fully pull yourself out of the business so it's making money without you. Because especially when you bring in these C-suite players, these are the individuals who will take over some of the leadership and the creativity when it comes to the direction, and that will fully pull you out, and they will make the money for you. So again, I covered this all right here, right? Step 1, start by hiring the roles in the order that we just covered. I just covered it, right? Step 2, track your books using QuickBooks or a bookkeeping firm. Use payroll software. Talk with an accountant. Trust no one else, not even me. Step 3, make sure you maintain a high level of quality checks at every level by ensuring scope of control, creating and requiring detailed scopes, and performing quality checks at every level. Step 4, every 3 months you should do a time audit for a week straight. ClickUp has this feature, but you can find a stopwatch anywhere. Track what you and your team spend time on. For you, make sure you do delegate any tasks that don't require your attention. For your team, make sure you automate any tasks that can be automated. Repeat this every 90 days to ensure all positions are working as efficiently as possible, right? Again, a week-long time audit every 90 days. Step 5, make sure you have quality benefits for your team, health insurance, vacation, all the stuff you wish that your last boss gave you that they probably didn't. And this was all the stuff that probably led you to wanting to start your own business because you weren't getting what you wanted, right? This will make sure that you can attract grown-ups who will actually want to stay and actually work hard for your business because they have a job they like, they enjoy, and they are acknowledged at. For your management reporting structure, when it comes to management, make sure that you're following the scope of control. Covered this before, I'm going to cover this a little bit more in depth. The Army drilled this concept into me, and it's helped me with absolutely every single business that I've ever worked on. Basically, the scope of control refers to the number of people a person can effectively manage. It's 3 to 5 typically. It can go up to 10 to 20 depending on the amount of work that you'll see per person, but 3 to 5 is the safe spot when you're managing people. So here's an example of a reporting structure for a digital agency. You'll see you are here, your CEO is directly under you. One person's reporting to you, CEO. To the CEO, you have the CMO and the COO. They're reporting to you. You could also throw in a CFO, but usually your CMO and your COO are reporting directly to you, right? You've got under the CMO, your content manager and your sales team. And then under your content manager, you'll see there's a copywriter, there's a content creator, there's editors. Under sales, you basically have your sales development representatives. For your COO, you'll see your tier 1 fulfillment if you follow the offers that I cover, which is your website automations and domains. This is your one-time setup, maybe a little bit of monitoring or at least auditing. Under tier 2, you have your SEO, your PPC, your social media marketing. And then under your client management, you have your customer success, and customer success. And you could argue that client management would go in between, and both the COO and CMO would have a play here, like they'd both impact it. So you could argue that, but this is just a very standard structure that I recommend to people starting out, and it helps tremendously, right? And you might be thinking, okay, this is great, but when do I actually hire? Like you've told me who I need to hire, you told me in what order I need to hire, but when do I actually hire? So easy, as soon as possible, because you're trying to pull yourself out of your business, right? Hiring new positions is like having your first kid. People think all the time, I'll never have enough money to be ready for one. Meanwhile, you have people making less money than you are, but they're cranking out more babies than Mormons in Utah, right? But unlike those money vacuums known as toddlers, each additional hire will add to your bottom line. They'll add to your top line and add to your bottom line, right? Either directly or indirectly. And yet, I can't tell you how many business owners I've seen refuse. They absolutely refuse on a DNA level to delegate because they think every additional person will only cost them money, as if it won't help make you 2 to 10 times more money every single time. They think that they have it going well, but then they scratch their head wondering why they can't make more money while, again, other less intelligent people pass them. I'm one of those other less intelligent people. Most of you watching my content are probably significantly more intelligent than me, but because I have acknowledged where I'm at and I've acknowledged that I can't do this on my own, I've built out systems that make money for me. So you should be passing me, right? And the way you do that, I'll spell it out for you, is delegate. D-E-L-E-G-A-T-E. Delegate, okay? When exactly should you be doing this? Well, let's get super specific, okay? Here's what I recommend. Number 1, figure out how much you need to justify hiring a position. Let's say, for example, that you need $950 a month to hire a quality remote customer success manager. Make sure you have 3 to 12 months of their salary saved up, and higher roles should have more security behind them, right? Example, I have roughly $3,000 saved up for this position. So $950 times 3, a little bit under $3K. $3K is good because now I know if nothing changes, I can sustain them for 3 months. Hire that position as soon as you hit that threshold. As soon as you set that limit and you hit that limit, or as soon as you hit that goal, then hire them, right? This allows you to have clear, obtainable cash flow goals to attack so you know exactly when to hire and you can't push it off because it doesn't feel like the right time, right? Again, this is very standard. This is very simple thinking. What I have found in my experience is that the less that you kind of complicate things, the simpler you keep things, the easier it is, okay? That's why I talk very directly and very simply, and that's why I get right to the point with as little fluff as possible, right? Action steps. By following this hiring order, you will grow your digital agency efficiently and you will avoid common pitfalls. Start with the essential roles that deliver services, then move on to roles that bring in new clients and keep current ones happy. As you grow, add management to keep everything running smoothly and non-revenue roles to support operations. So that'd be your accounting, insurance, HR, legal. This way you can focus on expanding your agency without getting bogged down in the details. And if you are even remotely interested in having me help you along with this process, you can go here to university.sasofunnels.com. Again, if you want a copy of this training along with many others, check out the pinned post on facebook.com/Alec J. Roy, where I'll also go live to drop early access to content and answer any questions there. When you get the document, you'll see it looks like this, and this training will be closer to the bottom. So we go here, and we go here. So you'll see all this content right here, and this will basically be at the very bottom right here. So it'll be number 16. You can't see because my big head's in the way. And if you see up here this YouTube course, you pop that open and you'll see the full YouTube course. Every one of these videos has a YouTube link. So you can watch it, you can listen to it, or you can read through it and do whatever you want to do with that. So if you have any questions, go to the Facebook page and let me know, or you can drop a comment below. But I hope this helps you out. If you want, again, that 61-page document, go ahead and just hit me up on Facebook. Otherwise, have a good one, and I'll see you in the next video.